Welcome, traveler. Tonight, you are safe. Before we begin our journey into the archives, I want you to find your most comfortable position. Adjust your pillows, pull the blankets up to your chin, feel the weight of the world lifting off your shoulders as you sink deeper into the mattress. Outside, the wind may howl and the frost may bite, but here, in this space, you are protected. Tonight, we explore a mystery lost to time, a collection of tapes found in a cabin at the edge of the world. We call it The Long Winter. It is a story of silence, of snow, and of the things that dwell in the whiteout. As I narrate these findings, let my voice be the anchor that keeps you grounded while your mind drifts towards sleep. Do not worry about the ending. Do not worry about the cold. Just listen. The static of the old tapes will blend with the falling snow, creating a cocoon of sound around you. Let us begin. The journey to the cabin began not with a map, but with a rumor. They said that in the northernmost reaches of the Yukon, where the trees grow thin and the sky stays bruised in shades of violet and grey, there stood a structure that refused to decay. It was a weather station once, or perhaps a lonely outpost for a soul seeking the ultimate silence. To reach it, one must endure miles of absolute whiteness. The air there is different. It tastes of ancient ice and ozone. Every breath you take feels like a crystal forming in your lungs. As we approached the coordinates, the horizon vanished. There was no sky, no ground, only a seamless veil of falling flakes, each one a tiny, unique geometric ghost. The cabin emerged from the haze like a jagged tooth. It was built of dark timber, stained almost black by decades of moisture and freezing winds. The porch was buried under 4 feet of drift, a pristine wave of snow that looked like marble. When the door finally groaned open, the sound was like a bone snapping in the stillness. Inside, the air was dead. It was a vacuum of scent. No dust, no rot, just the sterile smell of extreme cold. On the heavy oak table in the center of the main room sat a metallic box. It was a military-grade pelican case, its surface scratched and battered, coated in a fine layer of rime. Across the lid, written in thick black permanent marker that had begun to bleed into the plastic, were 3 words: The Long Winter. Inside were 12 VHS-C tapes, neatly arranged. Beside them lay a handheld camcorder, its battery long dead, its lens cracked like a spiderweb. This wasn't just a record of weather patterns. This was a diary of a descent. As I sat there in the dim light of my flashlight, the silence of the cabin began to feel heavy. It wasn't the absence of noise, it was a physical weight, like being underwater. I reached out and touched the first tape. The plastic was cold enough to sting my fingertips. I imagined the hands that had held this camera, shaking perhaps, or steady with the resolve of someone who knew they were recording their final moments. The first thing you notice in the cabin is the sound of the structure itself. The wood moans as the temperature drops, the nails contract, making sharp popping sounds that echo like distant gunfire. It is a symphony of thermal stress. I set up my portable player, the hum of the machine feeling like a sacrilege in this frozen cathedral. The screen flickered to life, a burst of blue static illuminating the dark walls. The static was rhythmic, a shh. And then, the image resolved. The footage begins with a date stamp, October 14th. The frame is shaky. We see a man's face briefly. Dr. Elias Thorne. He looks tired, but his eyes are bright with scientific curiosity. He is adjusting the tripod in front of a wide window. Outside, the sun is a pale, sickly disk hanging low over the mountains. Log 1, he says, his voice is deep, resonant, yet carries a tremor of excitement. The storm hit 3 days ago. According to the barometric pressure readings, this shouldn't be possible. The needle didn't just drop, it fell off the scale. I've lived in the north for 20 years, and I've never seen snow like this. It isn't falling, it's accumulating. It's as if the atmosphere is turning into solid matter. He turns the camera toward the window. The snow is coming down in clumps the size of a fist. It's heavy, wet, and relentless. You can hear it hitting the glass, a soft, wet thwack, over and over again. It is a hypnotic sound, a rhythmic drumming that lulls the senses. The wind has died down to a whisper, Elias continues, his voice dropping to a near whisper itself. That's the strangest part. Usually, a storm this size comes with a gale that could strip the paint off a truck. But this is silent. It's a silent burial. The camera cuts to a shot of the exterior thermometer. It reads -42 degrees Celsius. As we watch, the red liquid inside the glass tube visibly retreats, shrinking toward the bulb, as if hiding from the air. Elias walks through the station. The camera catches the details of his life, a half-eaten bowl of oatmeal, now frozen solid, a stack of books on glaciology and Norse mythology, a radio that emits nothing but a low, morning whimper of white noise. I tried to call out this morning, Elias narrates as he films the radio console. Nothing, not even the emergency frequencies. It's as if the snow is absorbing the radio waves. It's absorbing everything. Light, sound, signals, it's all being muffled by the white, He moves the camera to the floor, showing the gap beneath the door. A tiny tongue of frost is licking its way across the floorboards. It's growing in real time, crystallizing. The patterns are beautiful, fractal branches reaching out like frozen lightning. I've started to notice something about the flakes, Elias says. The camera zooms in on a single flake caught on the outside of the window pane. It's not a six-sided star. It's complex, jagged, almost looking like a tiny frozen gear. They don't melt when I touch the glass from the inside. The heat of this room, the stove is roaring, and yet the glass remains sub-zero. The cold is winning the battle. The footage cuts to night. The cabin is pitch black, saved only by the small green light of the camera's rec indicator. The sound is different now. It's a low, vibrational hum that seems to come from deep underground. Do you hear that? Elias asks. We can't see him, but his breath is loud in the microphone. Slow, steady, rhythmic. In, out, in, out. It's the weight. There must be 10 feet of snow on the roof now. The timbers are beginning to bow. It sounds like the house is breathing. Or maybe it's the earth groaning under the blanket. The camera pans to the window. There is no moon, no stars. Just a solid wall of grey-black. And then, for a fleeting second, a flicker of light in the distance. Not a flash, but a slow, pulsing glow, buried deep within the blizzard. There's something out there, Elias whispers. Not a person, not an animal. Something. Atmospheric. The tape ends abruptly in a burst of snow-like static. To understand the isolation of the station, one must understand the geometry of a tomb. As the days bled into weeks on the tapes, the very layout of the cabin seemed to shift in the camera's lens. Dr. Elias began to film the corners of the rooms, the places where the shadows pooled like spilled ink. He became obsessed with the way the frost climbed the walls, mapping it as if it were a new continent. October 28th, the tape begins. The image is crisp, too crisp. The white light, reflecting off the snow outside, has turned the interior of the cabin into a high-contrast world of blinding silver and abyssal black. The doors to the upstairs are frozen shut, not from the outside, but from the moisture of my own breath. Every word I speak adds a microscopic layer of ice to the world around me. I am building my own prison with every sentence. He walks the camera through the narrow hallway. The lens lingers on the wood grain. You can see the individual fibers of the timber, the sap long since turned to glass. He runs his gloved hand along the wall, and the sound is a dry, rasping scrape, the sound of sandpaper on bone. This is the texture of the long winter. It is dry, brittle, and unforgiving. I've stopped using the lamps, Elias whispers. The camera pans to a kerosene lantern, unlit, its wick frosted over. The snow emits its own light now, a pale bioluminescent blue that seeps through the cracks in the shutters. It's enough to see by. It's enough to dream by. He spends 20 minutes of the tape simply filming a glass of water on the table. We watch, in agonizingly slow detail, as the ice begins to form. It starts at the edges, thin, needle-like shards reaching toward the center. It's a silent invasion. The sound accompanying this is a series of microscopic pings and cracks, amplified by the camera's sensitive mic. It is the sound of molecules slowing down, of heat escaping into the void. The cabin is no longer a shelter, he says, his voice now a mere breath. It is a filter. It filters out the noise of the world, leaving only the sound of the great hum. Do you hear it? It's the vibration of the tectonic plates reacting to the weight. It's the frequency of the frost. He moves to the cellar door. He doesn't open it. He just listens. The camera focuses on the heavy iron bolt. We hear something from below. Not a thump, but a sliding sound, like a heavy silk curtain being dragged across a stone floor. It's getting louder, Elias notes. The snow isn't just outside anymore. I found a drift in the pantry this morning. It didn't come through a hole. It manifested. It grew from the floorboards like a fungus. It's white, but when I look at it from the corner of my eye, it seems to pulse with a dull, rhythmic gold. He begins to recite the names of the mountains surrounding the cabin, a litany of forgotten giants. As he speaks, he enters a trance-like state. The camera stays fixed on his reflection in a dark window. He looks thinner. His skin has taken on the translucent quality of parchment. I am no longer Elias, he tells the glass. I am a record. I am the witness to the end of the thermal age. The long winter isn't a weather event. It's a correction. The earth is putting itself to sleep, and I am the one who stays awake to tuck it in. The screen begins to tear, analog glitches appearing as horizontal bars of static. Within the static, for a split second, you can see shapes. Not human shapes, but complex crystalline structures that look like cathedral spires made of frozen smoke. The next tape in the box is labeled The Journals. The footage opens with Elias sitting on the floor, surrounded by hundreds of loose pages. These are the records he found beneath the floorboards. Documents from the 1800s, left by a group of trappers who had vanished in a similar anomalous weather event. They knew, Elias says, his voice sounding hollow, as if he's speaking from the bottom of a well. They wrote about the white silence. They didn't die of cold. They died of the quiet. They wrote that after 40 days of the snow, the mind begins to invent sounds to fill the vacuum. You start to hear music in the wind. You hear the voices of people you haven't seen in decades, calling to you from the drifts. He picks up a yellowed piece of paper. The ink has faded to a ghostly brown. He reads aloud, and his voice blends with the sound of the blizzard, creating a haunting duet. Day 52, he reads. The snow has reached the chimney. We breathe through a straw of brick. Thomas says he saw a city in the storm last night. A city of glass and light, hovering just above the pines. He went out to join the citizens. He didn't take his coat. He said he wouldn't need it where the sun never sets. Elias looks at the camera. Behind him, the window is now completely covered. There is no more blue light, only a dim, diffused grey. I heard Thomas last night, Elias confesses. He wasn't calling from the past. He was knocking on the door, not a frantic knock. A polite, rhythmic tapping, tap, 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 like a woodpecker. I almost opened it. I wanted to see the city. I wanted to see the light that isn't cold. He begins to film the journals in extreme close-up. The texture of the paper looks like a desert landscape. Every dot of ink is a crater. This visual focus is designed to ground the viewer, to pull them into the minute details of this decaying history. The records mention a heart of the winter, Elias continues. A point of origin. They believe that somewhere in the center of the storm, there is a place where time stands still. A place where the snow is warm and the silence is a physical presence you can lean against. I'm starting to believe them. My clock stopped 3 days ago. Not because the battery died, but because the gears froze in mid-swing. Time has become a solid here. He starts to draw in his own journal, and the camera follows the pen. He isn't writing words anymore. He is drawing fractals, thousands of interconnecting lines that mimic the structure of the snowflakes he saw on the window. Everything is connected, he mutters. The way the ice cracks on the lake, the way the veins branch in my hand, the way the stars would look if the sky was still there. It's all the same map. It's a map of the Great Sleep. The sound in this section shifts. The wind disappears entirely. In its place is a sound like a heartbeat, but much slower. 1 beat every 10 seconds. It is the sound of the cabin settling into the ice. I'm going to go down into the cellar tomorrow, Elias says. The tape is becoming increasingly unstable. The colors are bleeding, reds turning into deep purples, whites turning into neon greens. There is a hum coming from the earth that I need to categorize. It sounds like a choir, but without the voices, just the resonance. I think the earth is singing to itself. The tape ends with a shot of Elias lying on the floor, staring up at the ceiling. His eyes are wide, reflecting the flickering static of his own camera. He is smiling. It is the most terrifying and peaceful thing I have ever seen. The second tape found in the box is different. The plastic casing is slightly warped, as if it had been exposed to intense heat, yet the cabin was a tomb of ice. This tape, marked only with a hand-drawn circle, contains the most unsettling visual phenomena of the entire collection. The footage opens with a shot of the kitchen. It's midnight, or what passes for it in a world of perpetual grey. Elias is not in the frame, but we hear his rhythmic breathing. The camera is mounted on a tripod, staring at the back door. The door is reinforced with heavy timber, but the wood is bowing inward, not from wind pressure, but slowly, as if something incredibly heavy and soft is leaning against it. November 12th, Elias's voice comes from somewhere behind the camera. He sounds distant, as if his soul has retreated several inches behind his eyes. The visual artifacts are no longer confined to the tape. I see them when I blink. Pillars of light standing in the center of the room. They don't have substance, yet they cast shadows. I started calling them the static shadows. As he speaks, the video signal begins to degrade. This isn't typical magnetic interference. The static begins to form geometric patterns, hexagons and interlocking triangles that dance across the screen. Within these patterns, the shadows appear. They are tall, slender shapes that mimic human forms, but lack any defining features. They stand perfectly still. They don't move when I look at them, Elias whispers, but when I turn my head to check the barometer or the stove, I hear the floorboards groan. They are moving into the spaces I just vacated. It's a game of displacement. They aren't ghosts, they are placeholders. Fragments of a world that is more solid than this one. He picks up the camera and begins a slow, agonizingly deliberate tour of the cabin. He focuses the lens on the frost patterns on the window. Under the camera's macro zoom, the ice doesn't look like water. It looks like circuitry. I've been studying the architecture of the flakes, he says. They aren't random. There is a code written in the ice. I've spent 6 hours today decoding a single square inch of the window pane. It's a poem, or a set of coordinates. It tells of a place where the sun is a memory and the cold is a god. I find myself wanting to go there. My skin feels too warm. My blood feels like it's boiling. I crave the absolute zero. The camera pans to a corner where a static shadow is standing. For the first time, Elias doesn't look away. He walks toward it. The video signal becomes a chaotic storm of snow and grit. The audio emits a high-pitched metallic ringing. Just before the tape glitches to black, the shadow seems to reach out, not with a hand, but with a distortion of the air itself. It's not cold. Elias's final line on this tape is a revelation. It's just empty. And the emptiness is beautiful. This section of the footage is the longest continuous shot in the archive. It lasts for nearly 2 hours, but only 20 minutes are narrated. The rest is a masterclass in atmospheric dread. The sound of the cabin fighting a losing battle against the weight of the long winter. The camera is placed on the floor. Looking up at the ceiling, we see the heavy rafters. They are vibrating. Dust frozen into tiny diamonds is shaken loose from the wood, falling through the air like slow-motion stars. I can hear the sky, Elias says. He is lying next to the camera. We can see the side of his head. He has stopped shaving. His hair is matted with frost. The weight of the snow has reached a critical mass. The entire atmosphere above this cabin is a solid pillar of ice reaching into space. I am at the bottom of an ocean of frozen air. Suddenly, a sound breaks the silence. It is a loud, metallic clang. It sounds like a massive bell being struck deep underground. The camera shakes. Elias doesn't flinch. The first breach, he notes calmly. The cellar door has given way, not to the snow, but to the pressure of the grey hum. Something is coming up from the roots of the world. He stands up. His movements are fluid and slow, like someone moving through honey, and carries the camera toward the cellar stairs. The darkness at the bottom of the stairs is absolute. It's not just the absence of light, it's a physical barrier. I have to go down, he says. The voices from the journals, they weren't calling from the storm outside, they were calling from the earth below. The trappers, Thomas, they aren't dead, they are preserved. There is a difference. To be dead is to end. To be preserved is to wait. He descends, 1 step, 10 seconds of silence. Another step. The sound of his boots on the wooden stairs is the only thing in the universe. Creak, snap, creak. As he reaches the bottom, the camera's night vision struggles to resolve the scene. The cellar is no longer a room for storage. It has been transformed. The walls are coated in a thick, translucent ice that glows with a faint pulsing amber light. In the center of the room, the dirt floor has been pulled back to reveal a jagged hole. Elias leans the camera over the edge of the hole. The microphone picks up a sound that shouldn't exist. It's the sound of a choir, thousands of voices singing a single sustained note. It is the frequency of peace. It is the sound of the end of all struggle. It's a cathedral of ice, Elias whispers, and for the first time in the tapes, he sounds happy, truly, deeply at peace. The long winter isn't coming to kill us. It's coming to catch us. Like a fly in amber, we will be perfect. We will be eternal. We will be still. The camera remains fixed on the hole for 30 minutes. Nothing moves. The amber light pulses in time with the listener's breathing. In, out, in, out. The singing grows louder, then softer, then disappears into a low-frequency vibration that hums in the chest. I'm going in now, Elias says. I'll leave the camera here. If you find this, don't be afraid of the cold. The cold is just a blanket. Sleep now. The winter has been long enough. He sets the camera down on a block of ice. We see his boots disappear into the hole. There is no splash, no thud, just the sound of wind, even though we are deep underground. The tapes that follow are fragments. They are no longer chronological. Time, in the heart of the long winter, has ceased to be a linear progression. It has become a landscape, a vast, frozen ocean where every moment exists simultaneously. On these tapes, the date stamps are corrupted. They show years that haven't happened and centuries long forgotten. We see the cabin again, but it is unrecognizable. The walls have become translucent, the wood replaced by a substance that looks like compressed starlight in ancient ice. The camera is still where Elias left it, perched on the edge of the abyss in the cellar. But the cellar has expanded. It is now a cathedral of impossible proportions, its pillars carved from the very breath of the earth. Day. I have lost the count, Elias's voice returns, but it is no longer coming from a human throat. It sounds like the wind moving through a silver flute. It is melodic, echoing from every corner of the frozen hall. I thought the dark would be heavy. I thought the midnight would be a weight, but it is light. The darkness here has a glow, a soft phosphorescence that comes from the stillness of the molecules. The camera captures movement in the distance, not the static shadows from before, but something more fluid. Wisps of white vapor that move with purpose. They gather around the camera lens, frosting it in patterns that look like celestial maps. I see the others now, the voice continues. The trappers from the journals. They are sitting in a circle just beyond the reach of the lens. They are not talking. They don't need to. They are sharing a single thought. It is a thought about the sun, but not a sun that burns. A sun that heals. A sun that is made of cool, white fire. The audio in this section is a masterpiece of ASMR layering. We hear the sound of ice expanding, a deep, resonant thrum, followed by the delicate, glass-like shattering of frost needles. It is a soundscape designed to pull the listener's consciousness away from the physical world. The long winter is the Earth's way of dreaming, Elias whispers. When the surface becomes too loud, too chaotic, the planet draws a breath of ice and goes within. We are the guardians of that dream. We are the ones who stay behind to ensure the silence is never broken. The camera begins to float. It is no longer bound by gravity. It drifts through the cabin like a ghost, showing us the remnants of Elias's old life. The half-eaten bowl of oatmeal is now a sculpture of diamond-hard crystals. The books on the shelf have merged into a single block of white marble. Everything that was once temporary has been made permanent. But sleep is not the end, the voice says as the camera drifts toward the ceiling, passing through the roof and into the open air. Sleep is the beginning of the great preservation. You are being kept safe. You are being tucked into the folds of the eternal midnight. This is the final tape, the one found at the very bottom of the case, wrapped in a piece of silk that felt like frozen spider webs. There is no label on this tape. It is the purest record of the long winter's heart. The footage is no longer grainy. It is impossibly clear, as if the camera has been upgraded by the very environment it was recording. We see the world outside the cabin, but it is not the Yukon anymore. It is a landscape of crystalline towers and frozen rivers of light. The sky is a deep, velvety indigo, filled with stars that do not twinkle. They pulse with a steady, calming rhythm. This is the last log, Elias says. We see him now. He is standing in the middle of a field of white, but he is no longer wearing his heavy parkas. He is dressed in light, flowing fabrics that seem to be woven from the aurora borealis. He looks young. He looks immortal. I have reached the center of the storm. The heart of the winter is not a place. It is a state of being. He walks toward the camera and reaches out a hand. As his fingers touch the lens, the screen ripples like the surface of a pond. The sound of the wind peaks, a soaring orchestral crescendo of white noise, and then suddenly drops into a perfect, absolute silence. Listen to the quiet, he says. It is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. It is the sound of everything being exactly where it is supposed to be. No more searching, no more shivering, no more fear. He turns and walks away from the camera, heading toward a horizon where the indigo sky meets the white earth. His footprints do not leave marks in the snow. He simply blends into the light until he is gone. The camera remains stationary for what feels like hours. We watch the stars move in their slow, majestic arcs. We watch the frost grow and recede on the lens. The soundscape is a repetitive, soothing loop of a distant bell and the softest exhale of breath. The camera will stop soon. The voiceover, now the narrator's voice again, whispers. But the recording doesn't end. It just continues in the silence of your room. It continues in the stillness of your breath. The long winter has found its home in you. The tapes have ended. The box is closed. The cabin is once again a silent sentinel in the northern wastes. But you are still here. You are safe in your bed, wrapped in your own blanket of warmth. The story of Elias in the long winter was just a bridge from the noise of your day to the silence of your night. Feel the coolness of the air in your room. It is not the biting cold of the Yukon. It is the refreshing chill that makes your bed feel even warmer, even more secure. Imagine the snow falling outside your window now, not a storm, but a gentle dusting of peace. Each flake is a worry you are letting go of. One by one, they fall and disappear into the white end. Think of the static shadows, but see them now as protectors, the quiet moments of your own mind that stand guard while you sleep. Think of the great hum as the rhythm of your own heart, slowing down, finding its natural, restful pace. Your body is becoming heavy, like the timbers of the cabin under the weight of the snow. But it is a good weight. It is the weight of relaxation. It is the weight of surrender. The long winter is not a season, it is a sanctuary. As my voice fades, the sound of the wind will stay with you for a little while longer. It will wash over you, cleaning away the thoughts of tomorrow, the echoes of yesterday. There is only now. There is only this breath, and the next. Sleep now. The ice is thin, but the water is still. The snow is deep, but the bed is warm. The winter is long, but the dream is eternal.